Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this Friday, April the 14th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and I usually do a spiel to introduce my co-host. Well, as one of my Ryerson journalism professors said, if you ever leave this institution with one lesson learned, it's this. Machines are out to screw you, because just before we got on air, Tamara Ugolini, she disappeared, and we're trying to reestablish contact. So sorry for the technical difficulties. As my beloved professor said, machines are indeed out to screw you, usually when you need them the most. And by the way, what he meant by that is that if you, as a journalist, were ever going out to interview someone and it was really important, bring 3 pens, bring an extra notepad. If you have a tape recorder, bring extra batteries, bring an extra tape. We're talking about the early 80s here, folks. Maybe even bring an extra tape recorder for that matter, because when there's going to be a glitch, it is when it's going to be at the most important time. So there you have it. So our trained broadcast professionals are going to reestablish contact. Do we have we... Oh, okay then. And you know what, folks, while we sort this out, why don't we've got a lot of videos on the LGBT Transanity file. Why don't we throw to a video? It's from last night. Oh, look at this. Sam performed a satanic show filled with sexual references. Is he trying to get a gig as the Bud Light spokesperson? Let's check this out.
You challenge me for telling you my fantasy. I'm breaking all the rules I did not make. You took my word and made a trap for silly fool. You held me down and tried to make me break. Did I say something?
Well, my only question is this, folks. Why wasn't Sam Smith at, a Toronto District School Board school doing this shtick? A couple of days ago, they had a drag queen at York Mills Collegiate Institute on International Day of Pink. By the way, do you find that Pride Day, which morphed into Pride Week, which morphed into Pride Month, now, when we're not in the month of June, there's individual days like International Day of Pink. And this is something I just don't understand. I have no problem with any kind of performance art. If you're an adult, if you're taking in a drag queen at a licensed establishment. But this Sam Smith performance was in front of children. He's wearing fetish gear. He's doing a striptease. Basically a grotesque imitation of sex acts. Obviously, he's got something satanic going on there with the, it looks like some, devil props you'd buy at Dollarama or something like that. My biggest concern is, why is it that with the transgendered people out there and the drag queen community, there is this obsession with performing in front of minors? I think it is completely inappropriate, but right across North America, that is not the case, is it? When it comes to people running the public libraries, shopping malls, high schools, it is disturbing to say the least, because, and this is not an anti-drag queen rant or an anti-transgender rant, it's all about age appropriateness. And I'm sorry, for what we just saw in that clip, would you want a minor to take in that show? And I guess, minors are perhaps more cynical, more worldly than yesterdecade. What with the internet, you can get this sort of stuff and even much worse. But the idea that this is being allowed in front of minors, and secondly, and if anyone can explain this to me, I'm all ears. Why is it that parents think it's appropriate to bring a young child, an elementary school child, to see garbage like this? And that's what it is. I mean, even as an adult member of the audience, what the hell am I looking at? Why am I looking at some dude doing a grotesque striptease and paying homage to Satan? I don't get it. Maybe I'm a prude, maybe I'm a square, but I simply don't get it. And as we attempt to establish okay, then, as we, and in the terms of something that I don't get, and in fact, the entire world, well, the normal people in the entire world don't get, it's the most infamous shop teacher on the face of planet Earth. That would be Carrie Luc Lemieux, a.k.a. Kayla Lemieux, a.k.a. Busty Lemieux. And last night, folks, I was on Tucker Carlson Tonight, thanks to the effort that ace shooter Lincoln J and myself put in trying to catch Lemieux boobless, because you see, he claims the breasts are real. So we wanted to catch him in a lie, and just a few days ago at Mapleview Mall, our wish came true. So let's see our appearance on Tucker Carlson.
We've been following the story because we can't resist of the Canadian shop teacher, a dude who's been pulling the kids in his class into his sexual fetish. He showed up in class wearing Z-cup prosthetic breasts. And because Canada is a failed state, the school board took his side, always on the pervert side in Canada. They placed the teacher on leave only after parents threatened to sue. Most of Canadian media is ignoring this story, but there is one exception. David Menzies of Rebel News has been on this story of the teacher. He uses the name Kayla Lemieux. Menzies just spotted Lemieux at a shopping mall without the fake breasts. Watch this.
Inappropriately in front of children. Can you believe it, folks? Like a cornered rat, he ran for the hills. He didn't even have the guts to come back to his car. He's abandoned it here. He called an Uber and he's skedaddled, well, who knows where. I wanted to get to the bottom of those boobs, if they were real or fake. We have the answer now, don't we, folks? They are fake. They're as fake as a $3 bill.
Mr. Lemieux, where are your breasts? In the history of journalism, has there ever been a better question from a reporter? Probably not. David Menzies of Rebel News joins us tonight. David, thanks so much for coming on. So there was a question about his mental state. I think it's been answered by the fact he's wearing a mask outside. Is that common even in Canada now?
You know what, Tucker? I think that was worn as a disguise mechanism. He put that on when he noticed we were after him. But here's the scoop, Tucker. As you know, several weeks ago, the New York Post had an exclusive interview with Carrie Luc Lemieux, a.k.a. Kayla Lemieux, a.k.a. Busty Lemieux. I know that sounds like a vaudeville performer. But in any event, he dropped a bombshell, Tucker. Those breasts weren't made in China silicone props. Those were actual real mammary glands. He allegedly started developing at the age of 39 and developed right into a Z cup, or a Z cup, as you say in America. And isn't that fascinating? Because this is such a rare medical condition. The Cleveland Clinic knows of about 300 cases. Oh, by the way, they are all biological females that have this case. This is how much of a medical marvel Lemieux is. But here's the thing, Tucker. We saw him without those breasts. So it's one of two things, isn't it? He recently had those breasts amputated, or he was lying. Now, the other thing is, Tucker, for the school board to hear Lemieux say these are real mammary glands, and also that he can't wear a bra because it's too uncomfortable for him, this was like a gift from God to the Halton District School Board woke joke educrats. Because for them, there was basically the thinking is this, Tucker: we can't do anything about him. It would be like firing a disabled teacher who was in a wheelchair. That would bring in human rights legislation and penalties. So we have to make do with what we have. And by the way, their solution, Tucker, is they tried to do whack-a-mole, putting him in other schools in the region, hoping nobody would notice his breast. That plan failed miserably. So they're on Plan C now, and that is they're paying him full salary and benefits to stay at home and do nothing. But thankfully, myself and ace cameraman Lincoln J, we caught him. The jig is up, or the jig should be up. The ball is in the Halton District's court. Let's see what they do, Tucker.
David Menzies, one of the last journalists in Canada, the only one covering Breastgate. We appreciate your update tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wow, do I ever love Tucker Carlson. And speaking of love, my beloved colleague, Tamara Ugolini from the outer reaches of Coburg has reestablished her connection with Mission Control. I feel like I'm in the movie Apollo 13 or something like that, but thankfully you're not in a tin capsule thousands of miles north of the stratosphere. So, Tamara Ugolini, welcome aboard, my friend. And before we get to your opinion on that little segment that happened last night on Tucker Carlson Tonight, this is where you usually do your shtick to advise our audience how they can get involved by chatting directly to us.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I have a lacking internet connection, so it might be a bit discombobulated for the show today. I'm relying on some text message communication to tune into your super chats, which you can send to us through a few different platforms. Unfortunately, not YouTube, because they are censorious thugs and at risk of being deplatformed completely. We have to be careful what we say, but they have demonetized us. So you can no longer send a small monetary donation to engage with us directly on screen. You can, however, do that at Rumble. So give us a hyper chat or a super chat. I believe the other platform is Odyssey, where you can do that. So if you're joining us on YouTube, you might want to head over to one of those other platforms. As I mentioned, it's Rumble, Odyssey. Also, we are currently streaming on Twitter and Getter. So head on over there, and for a small monetary donation of $5 or more, you can have your super chat or your hyper chat read by us on screen, where we can provide some feedback or commentary, or if you just want to give us some tips or get your opinion. And again, I'll be relying on the studio to text me that information, because unfortunately I have no internet as it seems right now at home. So I'm relying on my cell phone data. I apologize for the delay there and the perhaps compromised quality, but nonetheless, I'm glad we were able to cover that for a few minutes scramble while we figured that out. With your awesome appearance last night, David, on the Tucker Carlson show. Who would have thought Busty Lemieux would be an international disgrace for the Canadian, but namely Ontario's education system?
Isn't it amazing, especially the Halton District School Board, Tamara? You know, here's the thing. As I said on Tucker, he delivered a bombshell when he got that exclusive interview several weeks ago with the New York Post, namely that those are real mammary glands. They're not silicone props. By the way, I should tell you, I was out in touch with the journalists and the photographer with the Post to talk about this story. There was a female journalist with them, and they said, if you don't mind, because they did this interview in a cafe, could the female journalist go into the ladies' room and just confirm your allegation that these are real breasts? Oh, no, that can't be done. He's too shy, right? This is a guy that goes skydiving with a porn star and splatters it all over the internet. So first of all, you would think this is preposterous. Nobody can possibly believe this, especially since the fake breasts that we bought from eBay are the exact same size and shape. Tell me, Tamara, what are the odds of that being the case? I think the odds would make the most reckless gambler cringe. But those rubes, those idiots at the Halton District School Board, they looked at that quote and they went, oh, thank God. You see, we can't get rid of them. those are real breasts. It would be us deciding to, say, fire a disabled teacher that was in a wheelchair. It's going to be a human rights calamity. And secondly, we can't even tell him to wear a bra because in the interview and his Twitter feed, and by the way, folks, check out his Twitter feed, but I warn you, it is like a descent into madness, okay? We can't even get him to cover up those eraser-sized nipples that are always protruding through those sheer blouses because it's too uncomfortable for him. Well, they would say her, of course. They're very pronoun savvy there. Too uncomfortable for this person to wear a brassiere. But Tamara, here's the question I'm getting to you. I want to hear your viewpoint, especially you being a 100% biological woman. We exposed him at the mall, Lincoln J and I. We showed that he does not have breasts. As I said on Tucker, that means he's either had them amputated, in which case he has made an incredible recovery. He's out and about. He's not in a hospital getting attended to. Or the more probable answer, he lied through his teeth. Now, the ball is in the court of the Halton District School Board. Their next meeting is Wednesday, April 19th. I would love to be in attendance, but as you might know, I have been banned from the Halton District School Board, all their schools and all their properties for life for asking insensitive questions. That's right. I am considered to be, in their eyes, a domestic terrorist, if you will. So my question is, Tamara, are these woke joke idiot educrats finally going to address this subject? And the way I would address it, for what it's worth, you lied to your employer. You said you had a disability, a medical condition, those breasts were real, and we proved last week that was not the case. To me, Tamara Ugolini, that means termination with cause.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. But is it even on their agenda to discuss this? And I guess unless a parent brings forward more complaints, then they might just try to skirt this topic altogether.
Oh, well, you use the term censorious thugs to describe the YouTube people. Let me tell you something, Tamara Ugolini. The way it works at the Halton District School Board, that's when I was allowed to attend this publicly funded school board. You have to submit your questions in writing, and then they vet the questions, and they pick and choose which questions they want to read. First and foremost, this issue, as you mentioned, which is getting international attention. People are reading about this in India, for goodness sakes, about Basti Lemieux. It's never on the agenda. So once again, they turn a blind eye to the elephant in the room. Secondly, I doubt they will present a question from a parent that's submitted in writing. So what I would say to any parents that are going down there next week, just get up and yell your question out. Yeah, they're probably going to sick security and call police because they know better. They are the supreme intelligence of Halton District. But that's the only way you're going to get your question addressed. But at the end of the day, Tamara, since we exposed him that he is not a she, that those breasts are not real mammary glands, he's got to go. That's it. The jig is up. Look at the evidence. Look at the video evidence. That, a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, a video tells 1,000,000 words. What would be their excuse not to address this? Because right now, Tamara, they are rewarding bad behavior. They are paying him a full salary and benefits to stay at home and do nothing.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. And you would think, as we kind of waded into yesterday, if logic and reasoning prevailed, that would be the logical next step and the logical answer to address this grotesque dismay for your employer and your employment and the duty that you have to these children to teach them and shield them, protect them from grotesque, fetish, sexualized weirdness. But we live in upside down, bizarro world.
Yeah. And
we have seen throughout the COVID narrative and throughout the way that the liberals conduct themselves in our governance that logic and rational and reasonable thought do not prevail. So I wouldn't be surprised rather, if some sort of weird mental gymnastics happens here to further bubble up this individual under the guise of being, inclusive, tolerant, and really validating their mental health struggles, because this is clearly indicating that there is some sort of really bizarre mental affliction happening with this individual to even pretend and put on a show of such nature for such a prolonged period of time. Perhaps he just is a big attention seeker, because he has certainly garnered international attention with this story.
Yeah, I agree, Tamara. At the mall, he pretends to do the I want to be alone, but he is a attention prostitute, no doubt about it. When you're putting up videos, we saw one just earlier where he went skydiving with Canada's foremost conservative male porn star. How can you make this up? He's not some shrinking violet. But there's 2 points I want to address too. If he was employed at a private business, say he was a waiter at a restaurant, if I was the boss, I can say, you know what, I'm going to let it slide. As a matter of fact, he's good for business. People book reservations because they want to see this freak show right up and close and personal at ringside. But the fact is, this is a publicly funded school board. We, the taxpayer, are the masters here. The school board employees and trustees, they are the servants, but they think it's the other way around. Secondly, you spoke about the chronology, that this has lasted for so many months, Tamara, and this could have been ended in the first week of September. Namely, the school board could have said, we adhere to a dress code, so cover up, because even if that was indeed a biological woman with those Z or Z cup breasts, you wouldn't dress in that kind of fashion. And they have confirmation from Canada's top labor lawyers, from Howard Levitt on down, saying that even in a heavily unionized environment, you can mandate a dress code, and they won't. And keep in mind, folks, that dress code is there for the students in Halton District. That dress code applies to Halloween costumes. Basically, anything that's funny or edgy or scary, you're not allowed to wear. Oh, and by the way, you're not allowed to dress as the other gender on Halloween, but if you identified as trans, you could do it 365 days a year. And so there is no excuse now that we've pulled back the curtain and we have determined that the emperor has no clothes. So Tamara, sorry folks, I think we might have lost Tamara. So we're going to go to an ad break. Sorry about that.
Oh, hey guys, thanks for watching the live stream, and sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to pop on to tell you about this incredible sweatshirt that I'm wearing, but also all the other great merchandise that we have available at rebelnewsstore.com. We're adding new stuff all the time, so be sure to keep checking. Even if you shop today, there might be something new tomorrow. And if you are shopping, be sure to use the coupon code Sheila10 for 10% off at checkout. Again, it's rebelnewsstore.com, coupon code Sheila10 for 10% off at checkout.
My mug? I know. It's pretty cool. So is this hoodie I got on, and you could have it on too if you check out our special website at rebelnewsstore.com. That's where you can see Freedom Focus hoodies that we have for you, beanies, cell phone cases, you name it, all while supporting our journalism, where we fight to bring you the other side of the story, as opposed to, being forced by the Trudeau government to fund leftist media out of your taxes. The truth is, without you and your generosity, there is no Rebel News. So again, if you like the reports that we bring you and that we also fight for freedoms in Canada, please consider doing some shopping, picking up some swag at rebelnewsstore.com. We appreciate your support.
Well, I asked, where's the beef? Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. I think my beloved colleague Tamara will not be on the live stream, at least today. There are some gremlins in her internet connection. You know what? It always reminds me when I ever say that word, what was American Motors Corporation thinking when they introduced a car called a gremlin? As you know, gremlins are those mythical creatures that create mechanical failures. And they introduced that car, I believe it was April 1st, 1970. Yeah, that's right. On April Fool's Day, you're going to introduce a car named after a creature that causes mechanical issues. That was tempting fate too much. And alas, where is the gremlin today? Where's American Motors today? I think they merged with Chrysler in the years ahead. But getting back to our last segment on the LGBT/Transanity Madness file, here's some good news. At York Mills Collegiate Institute, the Toronto District School Board, probably copying a page out of the playbook of the Halton District School Board, which might just be the worst school board in Canada, which is saying a lot given how many of these school boards are so hopelessly woke. Anyways, they celebrated something called International Day of Pink. Yeah, I know. I thought that happened in June during Pride Month. So I guess it'll soon be Pride Year. And the idea was to get all these woke candidates to come in and speak about, can I call it pink issues? Because it's called the International Day of Pink. But also, they couldn't resist booking a vulgar drag queen to entertain the kids. Oh, and by the way, not all the kids. As we found out, if teachers suspected that you were someone not down with the trans revolution, if you were 18, you were told to go home. If you're under 18, you were locked in a classroom so you wouldn't cause any kind of disruption or you wouldn't boo the pornography being presented on stage. I mean, it's unbelievable, folks. I remember teachers used to go around and taking away pornography from kids if you smuggled it into the school or displayed some kind of a centerfold in your locker. Now they are promoting it. But as long as the stripper is male, though, biological female strippers, that appears to be offside. If you can make sense of that to me, that's wonderful. But here's the good news. We discovered, to our joy, that there was a protest there led by Josh Alexander, who is a kid wise beyond his years. He's the one that's been suspended from his school and even arrested for trying to go to his school in the Ottawa area because he was looking out for the health and safety of biological girls. There were some boys pretending to be trans and going into the washrooms and looking under the stalls at the girls. And yet he's the villain. That got him the suspension. Yeah, the shining knight gets the bum's rush. Unbelievable. So they were there, but there was a counter protest of some of the worst Antifa losers I have ever encountered. And that's saying a lot given the number I have encountered in the last several years. And they were trying to indoctrinate the kids. And at the lunch break, this is the part I loved, all hell broke loose. It was the kids shouting down the Antifa pro-trans, pro-drag queen propagandists and telling them to leave. It was amazing, folks, because it suggested to me that these kids, these high school kids, have more sense, have more common decency than their teachers, the principal, and the executives at the Toronto District School Board. So if one of our super producers can roll that clip, I'll show you exactly what I mean. And we're just looking for that now. Check it out, folks. David Menzies for Rebel News here at York Mills Collegiate Institute in Toronto. And folks, there won't be an emphasis on learning the 3 R's today. That's because it is the International Day of Pink. And that is meant to commemorate the Stonewall riots and the birth of World Pride. Now, the keynote speaker is a gay rights activist, Martin Boyce. And a whole host of uber woke activists are here, including, if you can believe it, Toronto Police Sergeant Robert Chevalier. Now, Sergeant Chevalier heads up the 2S LGBTQ plus unit. And by the way, even though violent crime is soaring in Hogtown, Sergeant Chevalier thinks it's more of a crime to misgender someone. That's why when it comes to identifying his niece or nephew, he doesn't use masculine and feminine words. He uses a made-up gender word, nibbling. No, I'm not making this up. Check it out.
So the two of us sort of put our heads together, did some research, and we came up with the word nibbling.
Yeah, nibbling. Unbelievable. In any event, there are people here who are part of Save Canada, including Josh Alexander, who are protesting the idea that drag queens are performing in front of minors. And we heard that parents did not sign off on this as well. We'll have to see if we can confirm that. And of course, the Antifa types, you can tell them by their face diapers, they're here to cause some trouble. There's already been some violence. And you know, that's an incredible issue these days. Why is it so many in the transgender community and their allies identify as violent thugs and actually get away with it because police turn the other way for some reason? In any event, we're going to go into the fray and try to see who's who in the zoo and make sense of it all. Sir?
Just step off to the public property.
I understand that, but other media are allowed in. Why is that?
Again, you're going to have to go to the public property, please. You're on private property, so please head to the public property and we can have a media relations person come speak with you.
But CBC, CTV, Global have not been trespassed, right?
I'm not trespassing you. I'm just simply asking you to go to the public property and we will have one of our media relations come speak with you.
Okay, can I see your security license, please?
I mean, absolutely you can.
I just want to know if you're a real security guard.
Absolutely.
She doesn't need to show you that.
Yes, officer, you should know the law. She does have to show it to me.
I've seen it. That's good enough. Thank you.
I think it's 34C is the she has to show that she is a security guard.
She only has to prove it to me.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay, that's new to me. Well, I'll take your word at your okay. So there you have it, folks. That seems to be the media relations policy of the Toronto District School Board. Namely, if you're taxpayer-funded, Trudeau-approved mainstream media, you get the red carpet treatment. If you are independent media that does not suck off the taxpayer teat, you are journalist non grata. You know, I wonder if the lesson today at York Collegiate Institute is going to be Animal Farm. You know that famous line, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Hey, once again, folks, your tax dollar.
Group of students behind us, a lot of them speaking out, raising concerns about the drag event, and there's just a handful of people here, demonstrators, I guess counter demonstrators, that are showing support for the event. This is one of them standing up on this block here, and there's been so much happening with this guy. Let's just roll some of the footage.
Students of the Toronto District School Board, today we're here to oppose the agenda that's being pushed in that building. Many of you have been in this indoctrination facility. I myself, I was arrested at school for standing up against the garbage that they pushed against us. I'm here in opposition to a drag queen performing in front of students, as well as a Stonewall rioter now giving a presentation. These influences do not belong in an education facility, and
What was that Who song again? Oh, yes, The Kids Are All Right. Wasn't that something to see, folks? All the students had exited York Mills Collegiate Institute for the lunch break, and that Antifa thug gets up and displays I think that's the trans flag. By the way, can someone make sense of that to me? I thought the rainbow flag, it's LGBT, etc. The T does stand for transgender. So why do they have another flag? Why are they double dipping, if you will? I can understand why there are groups such as LGB without the T forming. I guess they're not simpatico with the mental illness community. But the fact is, those kids were booing that Antifa trans activist. He couldn't get a word in edgewise. He was getting more and more frustrated rather. I mean, he got so frustrated that earlier on he was wearing his face diaper, but to make sure he could be heard over the fray, he had removed that face diaper. I guess he would not be susceptible to the coronavirus if he's doing a social justice cause. But that was absolutely lovely. And I also question, I mentioned it in the report, why is it that members of the trans community, love Trump's hate? Why do they get so handsy? Why do they start throwing haymakers? And why is it that the police so often turn the other cheek? They don't notice that. They will not make arrests. It's like it's a very privileged class, isn't it? And it's just staggering to me. The other thing too, of course, look at the state of the Toronto Police Service. No fault of those good cops out there that really want to do law enforcement and go after the real bad guys. You have a sergeant making a video suggesting that if you have a nephew or a niece and they might be identifying as the other sex, you don't want to offend them, so you call them a nibbling. Like, really, a nibbling? Isn't that, I don't know, it sounds like a brand of licorice or a type of canned corn from the Green Giant. But this is the mad wokeness on display. So it was so enlightening for me to see the kids say, you know what, we're not buying the crap that you're selling. I'm just wondering how many trustees at the Toronto District School Board are in the fetal position after they saw what happened that day. That was just a thing of beauty. And by the way, the other factor too, you notice how CBC, CTV, Global, they were all allowed in with open arms for reasons that were undisclosed. We weren't allowed in. And what do you want to bet their coverage was all about, the inclusion and the diversity and the love that was on display on that stage as the drag queen did a striptease. And meanwhile, not covering what we covered, the real meat and potatoes counter protest and protests going on. Because in the mainstream media view of things, folks, if we didn't film it and if we didn't air it, then, well, it never happened. Again, your tax dollars are at work, be it the schools, the public schools, or the media, all of which right now, except for exclusions and when it comes to independent media, are sucking ferociously off the taxpayer teat. Well, that's enough transanity for one show, I should think. So why don't we look at a video? I understand it's going viral. It's at the U of M campus. And a PPC supporter tries to confront Justin Trudeau for being pro-choice. Oh, blackface didn't like that.
Our dental program that is going to help low-income families be able to send their kids to the dentist. Would you support that?
I'm not fully into it. I just know.
Well, you don't think?
Sure I'm against abortion.
Hang on. We'll put that aside for a second. You don't think low-income families should have access to dental care?
I think they should.
You think they should?
Yeah.
Well, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party voted against that. Okay. So already you see the party you support. The party you support. Doesn't.
I'm not fully
support it.
I'm more PPC. I'm not really
more PPC.
Yeah.
Okay. So Why is that? Why are you PPC?
I think they're mostly Christian. I think I'm against the vaccine mandate.
Okay, so mostly Christian. So you don't think we should be supporting Muslims?
No, I think we should support everyone.
You should support everyone.
I think mainly liberal abortion is against Christianity. I think a lot of
okay. Do you think that women should have the right to choose what happens to their own bodies?
Personally, no.
No, you think you should be able to choose what happens to a woman's body?
Well, I think if they're sleeping around, they shouldn't be allowed to abort the baby. Personally, I'm pro-choice.
Wow. Oh, wait, you just say you're pro-choice.
No.
You're pro-choice. No, you're not pro-choice.
No, I'm pro-life.
Okay, pro-life.
Yeah.
And you don't think women should be able to make choices what they do with their bodies?
With abortion, no. Personally, no.
Why not? Why not?
Because it was their choice to sleep around. They have to.
No. Whoa. That is. So a woman who is raped should be able to get an abortion?
I'd say that's where it gets complicated.
No, it doesn't get complicated.
But that's
it's either yes or no.
That's super specific examples.
No, but it's an all too common example. Right? Women get raped all the time.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's something we have to take seriously.
But 95...
So let's talk about that specific example. Should a woman who was raped be able to get an abortion?
I'm split on it, 50-50. But I think 95...
No. You are not in favor of saying yes. A woman who was raped should be able to choose to not bear that child.
I honestly don't know.
It sounds like you need to do a little more thinking and a little more praying on it as well. Wow, isn't blackface something? First of all, let's take a look at some of the things he said. A woman's right to choose. What about a woman, or for that matter, a man's right to choose in the last few years when it came to the vaccine mandates? Suddenly this right to choose went down the toilet, or when it comes to the right to choose, does that mean exclusively the termination of a baby as opposed to getting an experimental vaccine put into your arm? Yeah, I think that's what he means. Secondly, he was talking about when he said women get raped all the time. Oh, suddenly blackface is standing up for the biologically woman being sexually assaulted. And this is the same blackface that got the rules changed so that a man in the prison system merely has to say, I identify as a female. So Bubba says, you know what? I'm Bertha. And even though he's 300 pounds, he's fully a biological male. And typically, more often than not, in the slammer for sexual assault, he gets to go to a Canadian female penitentiary where he carries out sexual assaults on the biological female prisoners. Unbelievable, the double standard that comes out of blackface's mouth. But you know what? There was a good rebuttal from our dear friend Maxime Bernier. Let's run his video.
Justin, don't pick on my young supporters. If you want to debate me anytime, I'm there. Do you remember what you did at the last election in 2021 when you asked your friend David Johnston not to allow me to be part of the debate? You knew it would have ended badly for you because we are for common sense and more freedom, and we believe in people. And what you did to Canadians at that time, lockdowns, vaccine passports, stay-at-home orders, and all that COVID hysteria, people understand now that we were right to ask for freedom for our people. So I'm ready to debate you anytime because I believe that we at the PPC, we have the best ideas for a better future for Canadians. Justin.
Indeed, but Maxime, we know he doesn't like a level playing field. It's easy for him to take on a young supporter, and it's an unfair fight. Whereas if Bernier were to debate Trudeau in either of our official languages, I think it would be akin to seeing a rented mule being beaten. It would be no contest. And that's why Justin Trudeau doesn't want people like Maxime Bernier to come into a leadership debate. That's why he doesn't want Rebel News to go cover those debates. And despite David Johnson signing off on banning us, as you know, both in 2019 and 2021, folks, we got a federal court order allowing us to attend those debates. Blackface is despicable,
I got to tell you that. And speaking of despicable, let's not forget the carbon tax, because as we are in an economy where we see inflation out of control, anyone that's been to a supermarket recently can attest to that. Even though interest rates are on the rise, even though there are problems in the job sector, it's time for a carbon tax, the latest version of the carbon tax. Blackface has every excuse to say, you know what, we're all about saving the environment, yada, yada, yada. But this is not the time to further make the lives of Canadians miserable with the implementation of a carbon tax increase. But no, he won't do that. And good for Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, for taking Trudeau to task with this. Let's check out that video.
Your predecessor, Aaron O'Toole, supported the carbon tax. You do not. I just want to know, what are the reasons that you're not supporting a carbon tax going forward?
The carbon tax has failed. Everything about the carbon tax is proven to be a lie. Trudeau told us it would make taxpayers better off, that they'd get more in rebates than they paid in costs. Now, the parliamentary budget officer, whom he appointed, has confirmed that Trudeau was lying. That in fact, Canadians will pay about $1,500 more in higher carbon tax costs than they get back in rebates. 2, he said it would reduce emissions. In fact, he hasn't met a single solitary emissions target since he took office. And 3, he said it would help the environment, when in fact, what we see is it's just driving jobs to more polluting foreign jurisdictions. So a Poilievre government will get rid of the carbon tax to bring down gas, heat, and grocery bills. We'll tackle climate change. Instead of tackling climate change by making traditional energy more expensive, we'll do it by making alternative energy more affordable. We'll speed up approval for hydroelectric dams in Quebec, for nuclear energy in Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and other provinces. We'll back up carbon capture and storage so that our brilliant energy sector right here in Alberta can put the carbon back in the ground where it came from. That's a common sense approach to bring home lower prices and a more pristine environment. And that's my approach. Let's bring it home.
Bravo, Pierre Poilievre. And, look at the question that journalist asked. Why are you against the carbon tax when Aaron O'Toole was for it? Can someone crowdfund some dough for that journalist and buy him a calendar? It's 2023. Aaron O'Toole is yesterday's man. Aaron O'Toole is yesterday's man, and much like the carbon tax, is a failure because in the election campaign of 2021, he reversed position on the carbon tax, on the gun grab, and look what happened. That was an election Aaron O'Toole could have won, should have won, but he got, bad advice from his puppet masters. They probably said, listen, we've got the Conservatives fan base locked in. All we have to do is appeal to Liberals with things they like higher taxes and going after guns. The only thing is, if I'm a Liberal supporter, I don't want Liberal Light. I want Liberal Classic. I'm going with the Big Red brand and voting Liberal. And what you saw in 2021, I think, it wasn't Conservatives being so mad at O'Toole that they would vote for another party. They just stayed home in record numbers. And look what we have, potentially more years of blackface all the way till 2025. I think there'll be an election next year, which is really going to piss off Jagmeet Singh because that'll be 1 year short of qualifying for his full government pension. And let me tell you, folks, those Armani suits, the Rolex watch, the BMW M3, those are very expensive line items. So he really desperately needs that pension. So for once, I would love to see blackface screw one of his allies as opposed to screwing the entire populace in Canada. Now, moving right along, we have more blackface. Apparently, he has a theory about what the Ukrainians are fighting for. let's roll that video, and I ask you folks, does this make sense to you?
Ukrainians right now are fighting for the fundamentals of democracy, for the UN Charter, for the principles and values that underpin our country and so many others. That's why we stand with Ukraine. That's why, a couple of denial of service attacks on government websites, bringing them down for a few hours, is not going to cause us to rethink our unequivocal stance of doing whatever it takes for as long as it takes to support Ukraine.
Whatever it takes, as long as it takes. I'm reaching for my wallet now, folks, to make sure it's still there, because does that mean yet more billions of dollars going towards Ukraine? And when Blackface says they're fighting for the UN Charter, oh, golly, why didn't you tell us that earlier? Where is the WHO on board? How about the WEF or any other globalist institutions part of this mandate as well? I think in that clip, if you look at it objectively, he's basically, Blackface that is, talking people out of supporting the Ukraine initiative. Absolutely amazing. And it looked like, why was that photo op, why was that press conference staged in what seemed to be a supermarket? I guess only the likes of Blackface can go into supermarkets these days and not have to worry about the basket of groceries is going to cost at the cashier table. By the way, I think, folks, the people I really feel sorry for these days with all the inflation that's going on, it's potential Price is Right candidates. I frequently go into a supermarket, have the basket, not the big shopping cart. I reckon, at this point, that's about $55. And the total's typically $117.95. I have lost all track of the prices that are going up on our groceries. But I have also noticed, I may say, there's that phrase, I think it's called shrinkflation, because as the price is going up, the package sizes, that is, are going down. So we're getting screwed on both levels. I think it is now time for another ad break, and we'll wrap on the other side.
If you want to look good and shine like me, you can do so at our store. Go to ribbonnewstore.com. On this website, you have so much different style to wear, as this one, my favorite one, Justin Castro. With my code Alexa10, you will have 10% off on your next purchase. So don't hesitate, go now and look so good like me.
Have you checked out the fresh new swag we have at rebelnewsstore.com, like this nifty Resistance trucker sweater? We have warm, cozy sweaters, t-shirts, mugs, hats, phone cases, you name it. Everything to fit your freedom-loving needs, or maybe even trigger a liberal family member or friend. And for a limited time, you can use code TAMARA10 at checkout to save 10% off of your total order. So head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, check out all of our new designs, make some purchases, and use code TAMARA, that's TAMARA 10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Head on over, check it out.
And it is such a shame that Tamara Ugolini was experiencing technical difficulties, folks, because I know she'd love to weigh in on this subject. It is the citizen-led inquiry into Canada's pandemic response. It made a stop recently in Winnipeg. You're going to get a fair shake when the CBC shows up to cover such an inquiry. So why don't we run a video to... Oh, what's that, Olivia? Super producer Olivia needs a second to get that clip. But Tamara Ugolini has been reporting on, and I think participating in the National Citizens Inquiry. And it's amazing to see the kind of unvarnished truth that is coming out in that inquiry. I'm sure it's going to be a more honest inquiry than the inquiry into Chinese interference in the Canadian elections. if it ever happens, that is. We're still in that special rapporteur stage. And the special rapporteur, well, who is it? David Johnston, yet again, a family friend of blackface. Unbelievable. And a former member of the Trudeau Foundation, which and we saw just a few days ago, folks, the entire board and executives ran for the hills. In any event, I think we have that CBC clip. Oh, joy. Let's check it out.
Gathered at a Winnipeg hotel today to air grievances and concerns over Canada's COVID-19 response. It's part of a citizen-led cross-country inquiry examining how governments and institutions reacted to the pandemic. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, the hearings drew vocal opponents of public health measures.
For them, who chose not to get the vaccine, it should always have remained a private medical decision.
People filled this room at the Holiday Inn Airport West Hotel in a setting that appeared formal and structured. They came to hear expert witnesses and members of the public speak about the impact of COVID-19 policies. Rick Dick is a People's Party of Canada riding director in Winnipeg who attended because he disagreed with public health measures such as mask mandates in grocery stores.
There was a time when I went to Super Value on St. James and there was an officer there, and he denied me the ability to buy food just because I wasn't wearing a mask.
It's all part of what's called the National Citizens Inquiry into Canada's response to COVID-19, which is holding hearings across the country. It was launched by former Reform Party leader Preston Manning, who has since taken a step back. Engineer Ken Drysdale is one of 4 inquiry commissioners who listened and asked questions of witnesses participating both remotely via video and in person.
The absolute risks where you locked a child up in their bedroom for 2 months and they couldn't go to school and what the consequences of that might be.
Witnesses questioned the decision-making and science behind certain public health measures, including vaccine mandates, restrictions on in-person gatherings, and school closures. They also spoke about concerns over media censorship of scientists and experts who wanted to give different opinions. This was the first of 3 days of hearings in Winnipeg. Spokesperson Michelle Leduc-Catling calls it a unique inquiry.
It is citizen-run, it is citizen-funded. This is done through people in Canada who want to hear what Canadians have experienced.
She says it's being paid for through donations. Patrick Allard, a vocal opponent of public health measures, signed up to testify about the impact on him and his family.
From, lockdown measures, whether that was great grandma in a nursing home, not having the care she needed, not having the family.
The inquiry's website says public officials, including Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson and Chief Provincial Public Health Officer Dr. Brent Roussin, were summoned to testify, but organizers say they didn't respond. At the end of it all, commissioners will put together a report with recommendations and share it publicly. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
You know what, folks? I'm pleasantly shocked and surprised by that report. It was pretty much down the middle. I was expecting a lot more demonization and vilification of the people that are involved in the inquiry. And these are real concerns these people had. We saw in the last few years a despicable turn towards vaccine apartheid, if you will. That gentleman saying he was forbidden from buying groceries because he wasn't wearing a mask. We had those suspended without pay, which is a fancy term for you're fired. We had people being banished from traveling unless they were vaccinated. This was a very dark period in Canadian history, and I dare say I don't think it will ever be repeated ever again. If there's some other coronavirus coming down the pike or something else like monkeypox. Yeah, whatever happened to monkeypox? I thought we were on red alert for that one. But good for this inquiry for getting to the bottom of things. Well, folks, we're almost at a racetrack here. 2 super chats are in. One is from Ableist. $5. Thank you very much for that, Ableist. Max needs to pull Canada out of the UN and the Commonwealth and consider military options to deal with Islam, the regressive left, communist nations and their allies, and the globalist conspirators, PP, I guess that means Pierre Poilievre, won't. I agree with many of these things. I'm not sure what military option we're going to use to deal with Islam. I mean, maybe at a future day you can suggest that. ableist. I don't think we are at war with any Islamic nation right now. And it looks like the good news about the pandemic, it seems that for the most part, Islamist terrorism took a holiday. That's not to say it's not going to come back, but if you can clarify what you mean by that, I will read that as well. And Privacy Please 23 gives $10. Thank you, Rebel News Crew. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for that donation because, as you know, Privacy Please 23, we don't take your money out of your account on a regular basis, i.e. your tax dollars funding mainstream media. We do the most honest kind of fundraising, I think. We make a plea for your support, and you can choose to do so or not do so, and you'll still see most of our content aside from the material that is behind the paywall. Well, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Daily Roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. My thanks to super producers Efron and Olivia. And have a great weekend. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Why do men suddenly decide that they're women? They've been incentivized. Suddenly the non-binary male is on par with the actual female in the area of rights. That's a first. Now in articles decrying sexual discrimination, females and trans females are grouped together, even if they're still biological men. Not bad, right? You still get to have a penis, but also become a protected class and wear pumps. Our old friend Kayla Lemieux totally got it. The Canadian teacher with fake breasts the size of a dairy farm. He decided to exploit the identity politics grift to the point of absurdity. Here's new video from this week. Again, he's back to his normal self.
I thought your breasts were real. Where are your breasts? Why are you dressing inappropriately in front of children? But did you notice? No breasts. But Lemieux, I thought you told the world via the New York Post and the Toronto Sun that those were real mammary glands.
It's true. Kayla had said those breasts magically grew organically. He said it was a symptom of gigantism. But now they're gone. Now, did they shrink in the cold? It happens. Trust me. But now everyone's a performance artist with beliefs as fluid as deer piss. And speaking of